Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera.
We are your guides from the C9 Podcast Show, and today we're carving through some really strategic sources.
Hmm.
This deep dive is, well, it's specifically for you Australian business owners and C-level executives.
Yes, especially if you're grappling with that fundamental technology decision. Should we keep our software development in-house, or is it better to, leverage external partners?
That's the core question, isn't it? We're unpacking the choice between insourced versus outsourced software development strategies.
Exactly. And look, for an executive team, this isn't just about operations. It really impacts things like architectural governance, product quality, especially in regulated industries, and of course, the bottom line, your financial agility.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's clearly a high-stakes decision, and the sources we looked at, they pretty much immediately say that thinking it's purely binary, like 100% in or 100% out, well, that's often the first misstep.
That's right. It seems to be more about creating a model that's fit for purpose for your specific needs.
A hybrid approach, maybe?
Often, yes. The data suggests the ideal balance, which might mean a blended model, really needs a hard look at four key things. Think of it like a decision matrix.
Okay, what are they?
Your time horizons for delivery, the budgets you have and the financial models behind them, the specific capabilities or skills you need, and finally, your absolute non-negotiable quality and regulatory standards.
So conceptually, these two paths pull in pretty different directions. Insourcing, well, that obviously gives you more accountability day to day.
Tighter oversight, more granular control over the roadmap, you own it completely.
But outsourcing sounds like it's more about agility.
Exactly. It offers, flexibility and potentially faster access to
Yeah.
specialized global resources. That's really appealing if you need a niche skill, like yesterday.
Right.
But, and it's a big but, it does introduce that distance, inherent risks you need to manage very carefully, often contractually.
And the sources seem to really hammer home the timing aspect.
They do. If you've got mission-critical projects, things needing constant high-frequency collaboration, tight deadlines, particularly if it's core IP,
Then internal makes sense.
the data points towards using your internal developers. Yeah, you have that instant control, that immediate feedback loop.
Okay. But what if you need something really specific, a niche skill?
Well, that's the flip side. If the goal is efficiency by getting, say, highly specialized DevOps skills, or maybe specific AI expertise that isn't core to your main business,
Then outsourcing might be the only practical way.
it might be. Sourcing, hiring, and then retaining that kind of talent locally in Australia can be prohibitively expensive, or maybe even impossible, depending on the skill. Partnering externally might be necessary.
Right. Let's shift focus a bit. Talk about the value of keeping things in-house. If you're an executive signing off on, a big investment in an internal team, what's the real payoff beyond just having people down the hall?
I think the key words are alignment and architectural governance. The real advantages are about making sure the development team is completely integrated with the business.
So better collaboration.
Enhanced collaboration, definitely. Instant knowledge sharing, quicker issue resolution because the developers are right there with the product managers. Ideas can flow with almost zero friction sometimes.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting strategically, especially for a C-level view. Quality control. The analysis we saw really highlights that insourcing gives you full, direct control over quality.
Total control. You can tailor every single process to your specific regulatory needs, your compliance requirements. This really helps minimize things like technical debt and ensures the long-term health of your software architecture.
But that control doesn't come cheap, does it?
Not at all. And this is where we have to talk about the sometimes hidden financial reality. Insourcing is a significant investment, and it goes way beyond just the monthly payroll.
You mean the true cost of ownership, the TCO?
Exactly. You've got the obvious costs, salaries, Australian benefits packages, recruitment agency fees. Those are visible. But then you have the submerged costs, maintaining expensive infrastructure, continuous training and certifications, complex software licenses that keep needing renewal, plus all the general operational overhead.
And the sources definitely mention the challenge of just finding and keeping top talent in Australia. It's competitive.
Hugely competitive. It strains budgets, and you can end up in bidding wars just to keep your best people from leaving.
So essentially, with insourcing, you're trading a known, probably quite high, stable internal cost, mostly CapEx, right, for maximum governance.
That's a good way to put it. High TCO, maximum governance.
Okay, so if that's insourcing, let's look at the other side again, the allure of outsourcing. If the goal is speed and getting expertise quickly, what's the immediate win?
It really comes down to financial agility and immediate scale. The big benefit is getting access, almost instantly sometimes, to a specialized global talent pool.
Like finding that specific AI developer you mentioned.
Exactly. You could potentially onboard that kind of expertise in weeks, maybe even days in some cases, instead of the months it might take to hire them directly. That drives efficiency and can inject real innovation by tapping skills you just can't afford or find easily in-house.
And the financial structure changes too, which must appeal to CFOs.
Oh, absolutely. Outsourcing usually means significant cost savings because you're avoiding all that overhead we just talked about, the infrastructure, the benefits, the long-term training cost.
You shift from CapEx to OpEx.
Precisely. You're moving from internal capital investment to basically a service contract model that offers much more flexibility for budgeting, for tax planning potentially.
Makes sense. What about the time factor you mentioned earlier?
That's another big one. Outsourcing can seriously speed up delivery times. How? Well, by using teams spread across different time zones.
Ah, the round-the-clock development idea.
Yes, 24/7 concurrent development. A team in, say, Asia finishes their day, hands over to a team in Europe or the Americas, and work continues without stopping. Projects can get done faster.
That continuous progress sounds very compelling. But hang on. Aren't those things like time zones and language barriers, aren't they just, well, part of doing business globally now? Shouldn't a sophisticated executive team be able to handle that?
You'd think so, and experienced teams do manage complexity daily. But the sources are quite clear. Outsourced software development introduces very specific structural risks. If you don't address them head-on, they can quickly eat away at those cost savings.
Okay, like what specifically?
The operational risks are real. Communication challenges are probably the biggest culprit, stemming from language differences, cultural nuances in communication styles, and just the simple fact of time zone gaps. These are consistently cited as the top reasons for delays and costly misunderstandings.
Right. And what about losing control? That seems like a big one too.
It is. Executives worry about losing that direct day-to-day oversight. It can make it really hard to address fundamental architecture issues quickly or, pivot requirements on the fly if the market changes. You don't have that immediate lever anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's the elephant in the room, especially for Australian companies, IP, intellectual property.
Absolutely. That's often the foremost strategic risk. Protecting your intellectual property and maybe even data sovereignty, depending on the project. Sharing sensitive, proprietary information with external partners, particularly globally, well, it carries inherent risks.
That feels like the real crunch point. IP leakage is a nightmare scenario. So how do you mitigate this? It can't just be, let's have more Zoom calls. The sources must offer some concrete advice here, right?
They do. It requires a very deliberate, strategic, and contractual approach. It's not just operational tweaks.
Like,
Firstly, both sides must establish really clear, formalized communication lines. Often this means having dedicated technical leads or maybe bridge personnel internally whose job it is to manage that interface.
so a dedicated internal point person, a gatekeeper.
Kind of, yeah. Someone responsible for that translation and oversight. And you absolutely need structured project management tools, mandatory check-ins, often video conferencing schedules to keep everyone aligned.
Okay, that's the operational side. What about the legal and security side for IP?
That's critical. You need proactive contractual safeguards. Things like mandatory third-party security audits of the partner, really detailed data access control policies, and ironclad non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, that are enforceable and compliant with relevant international and Australian laws.
Right.
Protecting that sensitive IP has to be non-negotiable. It's part of the deal when you leverage the cost efficiencies of external teams.
Okay, so when we boil it all down, distilling these two approaches, what's the ultimate strategic choice?
Well, I think it means the decision really comes down to balancing three key things. First, you've got the internal control, the bespoke customization, the architectural integrity you get from insourcing.
Okay.
Second, you have the cost effectiveness, the scalability, the fast access to specialized talent that outsourcing offers.
Right, the agility.
And third, and this is maybe the most sophisticated approach, it's about establishing a robust blended operating model, one that carefully decides which activities are core and need that tight internal control, and which are non-core or need specialized skills that are better suited for external partners.
So it's rarely all or nothing.
Very rarely for complex organizations. The core mandate really is striking that right balance between your long-term strategic needs like governance and short-term operational needs like cost efficiency. You need to ensure projects get done successfully on budget, minimizing risk, and crucially, making sure it all aligns with the bigger business objectives.
A good way to frame it might be, are you building something that is your unique core competitive advantage? Or are you essentially acquiring a commodity service that helps you run the business?
That's a great lens. Your answer to that really helps dictate the strategy.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's leave you, our listener, with a final thought to chew on. This comes from some of the deeper financial analysis in the sources. We talked about the true cost of ownership, TCO. Beyond the obvious things like salaries and benefits for your in-house team, have you really factored in the full overhead? I mean, things like the opportunity cost of your internal HR team spending time on tech recruitment instead of other things, the rising cost of complex software for regulatory compliance, the actual cost of employee turnover attrition, and then retraining new people.
That's a really important point.
When you calculate the long-term ROI of your current internal development strategy, is that hidden TCO actually much, much higher than it looks on the surface on that initial payroll spreadsheet? Something to really think about.
Definitely. Well, we hope this analysis has provided a clearer, perhaps higher-level framework for you to model this really critical strategic choice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yes, thank you. And if you are an executive listening and thinking about how C9 could potentially assist with modernizing your outdated business software, or maybe you need some expert strategic guidance on actually modeling these complex insourcing versus outsourcing decisions for your specific context, well, please do contact us.
C9 is Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company. You can find out more about us and our strategic services at www.c9.com.au. That's c9.com, source cs.com, SunSource Decical.
And finally, if you found real strategic value in this discussion today, we'd really appreciate it if you click that follow button. And please do share this deep dive with others in your network, other executives who you think could benefit from this kind of high-level thinking.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.